10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Off Model, a weekly live show where we get into some animation industry news as well as some live demonstration and today some questions and answers. For those of you who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Elijah Sheffield. I'm a professional motion designer and I teach the Masses Blender right here on YouTube. Now we've got a great show for you today, as you can already tell. Having a little bit more of a Christmas theme, a little bit more of a Christmas aesthetic. I've got some live flame over here, which is, it's sketching me out a little bit, I'm not going to lie to you. And it is pouring off actually an excessive amount of heat onto my neck. So, I don't know. Well, we might extinguish the flame later on in the show. But for now, it's a nice, cozy ambient. It's just burning through some isopropyl alcohol. And of course, we have the skis on the wall. We've got the snow is coming down all around me. It's a really lovely, really lovely ambience right now. But we've got a great show for you today. We're going to get into some news. Nothing really crazy happening, unfortunately. Nothing that outstanding or interesting, maybe. But there are some more hardware news type stories, some things that I think might be of general interest, kind of in more of the hardware realm. Then, of course, we'll get into a live demonstration. We'll be going over shader editing and shader building within the shader nose editor inside of Blender. And then we'll do some live questions and answers. I asked some questions, I guess it would have been the beginning of the week. This week has been insanely long. So what might have been 3 days ago does indeed feel like a couple months ago. So a couple months ago, but actually a couple days ago, I asked some people to send in any questions they might have had about kind of my journey or perhaps some advice or some thoughts on freelance or the industry in general. And of course, they sent those in. And I'm going to answer those. I'm going to go through a few of those. I chose 3, but of course, if you have bigger questions, you can always kind of come back and you can ask them in the live chat and I'll address them as well. And you can always comment down below. So we'll get into all that. Got an exciting show. I think it's going to be a good time. Before we really get into it, before we dive into our news sections, I want to remind you to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, hit that notification bell, make sure that you're notified as soon as I start going live and posting videos, whatever, and comment something. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on the show, comment them down below. I'll see them. And more than anything, it just kind of helps push the algorithm forward. So check that out. I'm wanting to grow the show a little bit. I'm wanting to get a little bit more engagement and not trying to put all my eggs in this basket, but this is a pretty fun basket. I'm having a good time and I'd like to get the show out there a little bit more. So please subscribe to the channel and comment down below and share the video if you're so inclined. So, other than that, please consider joining Members Only. I've talked about this a lot, but Members Only is the subscription right here on YouTube. It's $10 a month. It gets you access to exclusive project files. It gets you access to exclusive breakdown videos, and it gets you access to the Fort, an exclusive Discord channel, server, whatever it is, where you're in there with a whole bunch of other artists, and it's just a really good time. I'll get into a little bit more of that later on. We've got an exciting live event that we're doing exclusively for the Fort this month of December, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But let's go ahead, we'll move into the news here. Like I said, nothing particularly crazy or exciting necessarily, just a few headlines that I think are perhaps noteworthy. The first one is the drop of the Huion, I believe that's how you say it, Huion Canvas 27, or Canvas Pro 27. I actually have the Canvas Pro 24 right here in front of me. If you're not familiar with Huion or the Canvas Pro series, it's essentially a more budget-friendly version of the Cintiqs, the Wacom Cintiqs. I had a Cintiq 27 when I worked at my previous job. I really loved it. I thought it was great. Might be a little bit overkill. I mean, it's just humongous, and in a studio environment, you know, I think that's great, but I don't do a ton of sculpting. I do draw storyboards. Sometimes I doodle on it, but really, I not really got a need for a 27-inch necessarily. That's neither here nor there. The 27-inch Pro was revealed, which is an answer to the Cintiq 27 Pro at half the price. So if you are considering upgrading your hardware station this holiday season, check that out. I have it linked down below. I think it's going to be actually really cool. Like I said, I have the Huion 24, and I've really not seen any kind of a quality drop off between the Cintiq and this, other than the fact that it is literally half of the price of the flagship models. So check that out. If you do check that out, let me know what you think. I'm interested in seeing how that pans out. I'm always looking for an exciting use of a tax write-off. So let me know what you think about that. But like I said, link below, you can check that out. The only thing that I do miss about the Cintiq, this is the pen for the Huion right here. You can see it. It's fine. It's kind of chunky. It doesn't use a battery or anything, but it's just I don't like it. I don't like the way that it's shaped. I don't like the way that it feels in my hand. I liked the Cintiq Pro. It's very slim, very sleek, and it felt like I was holding more like the Apple Pencil, and this is almost like a jumbo crayon. And although I do love a good jumbo crayon, that is not really the vibe I'm wanting to go for while I'm trying to make, edits or sculpt something. So, like I said, Huion Canvas Pro 27 is now released. I believe it will start shipping in December 31st. So if you order now, you'll of course kind of have to wait for them to start shipping that out. But 27-inch screen, 4K UHD, and 144 hertz refresh rate. So pretty cool. Now, kind of in a similar vein here, another headline we have is kind of the new MacBooks that are incoming. Of course, this is just rumblings. This is according to Mac Rumors, but I've seen enough corroborating evidence to believe that this is probably accurate, at least to some capacity. Essentially, what we have is new MacBooks rolling out in kind of a new direction, or a step in a new direction. Every few years, I feel like MacBook rolls out a new flagship model where it's a little bit different. There's some standout things. You had the touch bar at the top. You have new keyboard layouts. You have all these fun new stuff that they add to it. But it seems like we're doing that again. We're getting another flagship, another generation. But the kind of interesting thing that is being alleged is that Mac is now, or Apple rather, is now targeting both sides of the demographic. The socioeconomic demographic. They're still maintaining their high performance machines. They're still iterating. It's going to be the M5 when it drops, and the M5 is still really powerful. I have M3 Ultras in my rig, but the M5 of course is going to be very efficient, very fast, really awesome. But there's also allegations that it's going to be a touch screen and that they're going to have OLED, and it's going to be all this different stuff. So it could be really cool on the high end. But the more exciting, I think, to the average consumer, or perhaps the more interesting part, is that they're now going to offer an answer to the Google Chromebook. They're going to be putting out a very low-end machine that's just for your word processing, your general day-to-day laptop activities. That will still be a Mac OS device and will kind of operate as like a lower-end consumer-grade MacBook. So that's kind of cool. They've never really done something like that. They've not really catered to the lower end consumer. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. But potentially that low end machine will roll out early 2026, and the high end machines will probably roll out late 2026 after the Dub conference. So some things to look forward to there. I think that's really cool. If you're thinking of getting a new MacBook or upgrading, just maybe wait a beat, see where things go. But at the same time, the second you buy an Apple device, I don't know how they always time it like this. It's almost magic, but maybe you don't have the same experience. But the day after I purchase, a multi-$1,000 machine, they announced the next generation that's going to blow this one out of the water the very next day. So I'm sure other people experience that as well. Hopefully, I assume it's not just me, but maybe hold on if you're really on the fence of if you want to upgrade your machine. It seems like there's a new generation coming, so just put it off a minute. Now, the next headline that I have for you is probably the biggest headline. We've done this 4 episodes now, so about a month, and this is the biggest headline I think I've had actually. It's 22 days till Christmas, which is really exciting. I myself am very excited about Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, you can at least sleep well knowing that a Blender streamer that you really enjoy, it's 22 days until his Christmas. So hopefully that gives you some solace. But 22 days till Christmas, I think that's super exciting and obviously newsworthy to include into the notes. And the last thing, not really a headline, but Payload is out. Payload, you might have seen the advert for it. I have it on my YouTube channel. It is officially out. It's a material management add-on for Blender, and people are loving it. People have been reaching out. I've got a lot of great responses. People seem to really be enjoying it and utilizing it in a myriad of different settings, both hobbyist and professional. Nobody's leaving reviews, which is starting to get on my nerves. If you bought Payload, I am conscripting you. Go leave a 5-star review. Tell me how great it is. If you haven't bought Payload and you would like to buy Payload, but you're like, I missed out on the sale, I can throw you a little bit of a bone here. If you use code OFFMODEL, it'll be linked down below. If you use code OFFMODEL, you can get an additional 15% off of an already very affordable price. And of course, be sure you leave a review. Let me know what you think about it. Hopefully it's 5 stars. If you don't have 5 stars to say, you can go ahead and move on. But that is officially out, and if you want to check it out, it's OFFMODEL is going to give you 15%. We'll be using it a little bit in today's demonstration. We'll get into that momentarily. But the other part of the payload news, I suppose, is actually I'm looking for affiliates right now. I have a couple that I think are really exciting and are hopefully going to be good partners, but I'm looking for affiliates. So if you happen to be watching this and you have some kind of an audience or some kind of some influence of some kind, and you would like to help promote Payload and get a kickback on an affiliate link, reach out to me. Let me know. I'll check you out, see if you're a good fit for the ambassadorship, I suppose. But we are rolling out affiliate links coming soon. And yeah, I believe in this product. It's not just a money-making avenue. It's also something that I think is really cool, and I would love to get it out to the people that really need it. So the more ubiquitous it becomes, the better for, I think, the Blender community, and the better for me, because I'm trying not to freelance as much anymore. And I'm making my money from making products for you, and also, I guess, doing a free live stream. I make my money by doing a free live stream. So anyway, check that out if you're so inclined. If you think that you'd be a good fit for the affiliate program, or even if you would just like to learn more about it and you don't know if you're a good fit, don't hesitate at all to reach out via the comments. You can email me. My email is very accessible, or you can DM me on Instagram or tweet at me, X at me, whatever it is, and we'll connect over that. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and get into our live demonstration for this evening. I'm pretty excited about this. Now, like I kind of said, we'll be doing some Christmas-themed streams going forward, or at least, though, at the very least, winter-themed streams. And so I was thinking about, okay, what is kind of, somewhat related to winter or Christmas? What can I demonstrate? What can I demo for the people that would be interesting, related to Christmas, and even to some capacity, to some degree, helpful? Very useful, because that's the thing. I think the off-model structure is really cool for the sake of, like, I get to kind of demo things that I'm enjoying, but I also want to be sure I maintain a level of quality where if you're watching it, hopefully you're gleaning something from it. So as I was thinking about that, I started thinking a lot about the shader editor, which is something that I personally love. I'm a huge fan, huge proponent of the shader editor, but I do know a lot of artists have a lot of shader editor anxiety. They don't like it. It freaks them out. They don't really know how the nodes work. So I thought today, together, we would demystify it quite a bit, get into it, and beat some shaders with a hammer, make some new shaders, and just kind of take a general look at building shaders with the shader editor. So we're going to get into that, and if we have time, I'm essentially going to show you how to edit a brick texture. It's going to be our first thing up to bat. And the second thing is going to be actually integrating a decal onto the stocking so we can actually make it look like it's part of a knit texture. So I think that's going to be really cool, but if we have time, I would like to do one of two things. And this is an experiment, but we're going to try one of two things. Either we're going to do a garland, like make a nice little garland, whatever it's called, string. We're going to do a line of garland. That sounds like a drug. We're going to put a strand of garland on the fireplace that we're going to be working on, or we're going to make a procedural cookie shader. So it's going to be completely procedural. Neither of these have I practiced or run through. So if we do either of these, there is a very large chance it could go off the rails entirely. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to drop a poll here for you. Okay, I'm going to hit start a poll. Never tried to do this. Okay, we're going to try bonus material. Okay, or bonus, I don't even know. We'll just call it bonus. And we're going to do garland and cookie shader. Okay, so I've started this poll here for you. Did it there live. Very cool. I think you should be able to see it up there. I'll have you guys, if you're able to see the poll, I think you should be able to. It's like blocking half my screen now. If you're able to see the poll, go ahead and vote halfway through, or whenever you have the inclination to put a vote in. Let me know what you'd like to see, if you'd rather do the procedural cookie shader, or if you'd rather see how to make garland, a garland bow. And we'll get into that. All right, enough yapping. But before I actually do that, I'm going to go ahead and, I was afraid, honestly, right before I did that, I thought I might catch on fire when I do that, which actually would have been, now that would have been a clippable moment. I don't want to clip farm on my stream here, but that would have been great. But I did not catch on fire. We're all good. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the screen here. And we're going to get into it. We're going to start out by actually taking a brick texture. We're going to apply it to the fireplace here. And then we're going to use a clever shader setup. And I'm going to walk you through how it works so that maybe you understand a little bit more of the logic behind it than just click these buttons. And we're going to add that kind of char around the actual fireplace right here to kind of insinuate that as the fire burns, it puts soot all over the place. So if you've seen a fireplace that has been heavily used, you have the nice orange brick, and then you have soot all over it. So we're going to get into that. We're going to set that up right now. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is actually bring in a nice brick texture. Now, luckily, Grayscale Gorilla has all kinds of lovely textures and brick textures. So we can just type in brick here in the studio setup. And if you're not using GSG, if you don't use GSG, if you use something like Polygon or Blender Kit or something like that, they should also be able to just import assets very easily. And if you're just bringing something in that you bought from like Superhive or something like that, and you're bringing it in as texture images, we can get into that momentarily as well. But that's not really what today is about. So I'm going to use this brick right here, dbrick12, for those of you who are curious about its name. I'm going to go into shader preview here, and I'm going to hit in on the side panel to open up payload. And for the time being, I can just give myself a little bit more screen real estate here. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use payload. Bam! And as you can see, that really does, that looks horrible. So if you had this situation without payload, of course, you would have to go in and either UV unwrap the entire thing, or you would have to come in here and change a bunch of parameters. But with payload, of course, you can change this to box triplanar, and it doesn't really nail it on the sides there because it's trying to piece it together in kind of a boxy way. But from at least the front, and if you look here in the render preview, we can take a look at this. You can't even tell. It looks really great just right off the rip. So we'll leave it like that, okay? So the first thing we need to do is actually kind of adjust the brick texture. I like the way it looks generally. I think it's a little bit too reflective for what I want, and I think it's also not really the right look. I want it to be a little bit more saturated, a little bit brighter, and look almost a little bit more cartoonish. Now, the first thing we can do is actually make sure the shader editor is open. I can't speak, excuse me. The shader editor is open, and I'm going to go ahead and close down this render preview, and we can take a look at what's going on here. Now, I like the bricks themselves, but I kind of want them to be a little bit larger. So we can go to the mapping texture node here, or the mapping coordinate node, excuse me. And we can change this by changing the scale value, just like this. Or we can drag out a little, what's it called, a node hookup right here. And we can find value. We can set this down. And then we can just change the value, and it will change all 3 dimensions at once. So we can make the scale a little bit larger by making the value smaller. And here we have a nice brick texture, and I feel like this feels pretty appropriate for the scale. So the next thing we're going to do is actually affect the color of the bricks. And the color of the brick is going to be actually driven by the base color input right here. And we can change this by adding a node in between these. Now, we'll get into changing a color with a color ramp later on. So if you're about to pick up your pitchforks and your torches and come after me and say that's a stupid way, we'll get to that, okay? Settle down. This is a quick and easy solve for if your texture is almost right, but it needs just a little bit refinement. So we're going to hit Shift A. We can type in HSV, and it will pull up hue, saturation, and value. It works just like HSV input in something like After Effects or Premiere or I assume not Houdini, what's it called? DaVinci. I don't use DaVinci, so maybe it has something like this. Now we're going to change the hue a little bit. We're going to start there, and we're going to make it a little bit more red. So I think I'm going to change this to 0.47, something like that. And I think that looks nice. That's a little bit on the redder side. We can increase the saturation just a little bit to kind of get it closer to that classic red texture. And then the value, we can push up a little bit. Again, getting it closer to a more cartoonish look. Now, again, I said, I don't really care for how reflective it is. And we can do that with a very similar operation. So instead of using an HSV node now, we can add in a brightness and contrast node. And I can just click that and put that down right there. And now this gives me the ability to change the brightness. So I can pull this up a little bit, and at 0.08, I'm not getting as much reflectivity off that, and it feels a little bit more rough, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So that's perfect. If you wanted to change and give it a little bit more height, you can, of course, increase this, and it will kind of push that in a little bit more. We don't have enough geometry, really, to support those grooves, so we're just going to leave it at what it was at 0.01. And now we have a brick texture. It is very mildly changed, altered. It's nothing really earth-shattering or crazy, but it is changed a little bit. So now we're going to get into actually how to add the kind of soot ring kind of around the hearth here. And you might be wondering, why on earth should I do that? You know, 3D is just a series of decisions. I talk to my wife about this all the time. By the end of my day, I have so much like decision fatigue, so much choice fatigue, that like when she asks me what I want for dinner, I don't want to answer, because every single day, 90% of what we do as 3D artists is making little decisions. And, you know, that can absolutely lead to analysis paralysis, and you can get caught up in, is this the best way to do things, or should I spend time on this? Should I speed past this? Those are all very valid questions. But to stop rambling a little bit, the reason I think that you could or should go out of your way to create something like the soot ring around the hearth is because that is the small detail that stands between a pretty okay piece of art and a really nice looking piece of art, especially when it comes to 3D stuff, especially when it comes to stylization or even hyper realism with detailed stuff. Taking the time to add those little details that just add a little bit of realism and a little bit more intrigue to something, it can plus up your work tenfold. A good example is the jeans on the little character that spins around. Not recently, because he's in pajamas now, but when he had jeans on, I literally spent another 5 minutes to just add a variation to the like tops of his pants, so that it kind of looked faded, and it ended up giving it a lot more. It didn't really cost me a whole lot of time. It maybe took 5 minutes of setup, but it made it look a lot better than if it was just a straight color. So that is the reason we do stuff like this. If you're just a runner and a gunner and you don't really care, you can ignore this. But ladies and gentlemen, I clicked the wrong button, and I apologize profusely for that. I was in the middle of, I said something really profound. I apologize. But yeah, this is, we're going to get right into it. Essentially what I was saying is that by adding in more details, by taking your time and actually adding those details into the scene, even if it's just a small thing like soot around the hearth, it really does increase the value of it and the intrigue of it in general. So I apologize, man. I'm just fat thumbed with the buttons. That's exactly what happened a couple nights ago, or a couple weeks ago rather. I fat thumbed and didn't have the microphone on. So okay, we're gonna get into this. Enough jibber jabber. Now what I really need to do to set this up is I need to create a gradient that is mixing between this brick texture and another brick texture that we're going to duplicate and create, that is actually going to be more like soot. It's going to look rough, it's going to be blackened, and then we're going to take that and use a gradient texture to mix between the two, okay? So let me show you exactly how we're going to do that. We can do it actually pretty quickly. So I'm going to take this principled BSDF. I'm going to duplicate this by Command Shift and D. I can do that, and it will keep all of its links there. And then I can just preview this by using Control and Shift. And now we can kind of edit this a little bit more. Now I don't need the HSV on that one, so I can get rid of that and reconnect it to its original. And I can add in another HSV like this, and I'm going to drop the saturation way down to like 0.3. And then we'll also drop the value down. And now it's starting to look a bit more like soot. So same thing here. I can duplicate my brightness and contrast. I'm going to run the roughness to the brightness and contrast, and then I'm going to plug this into the roughness node like this. And now I can increase the roughness quite a bit more to like 0.6. And as we can see, there's almost no reflectivity off the brick. In fact, I can make this a little bit darker just to really crunch that down. And now that kind of looks like it's covered in soot. That's exactly what we wanted it to feel like. I could maybe bring that value up a little bit. I think something like that is good. And so now we can take this texture and this texture. No! Oh, I deleted it. I deleted it. That is so unfortunate. I'm going to go back here. I think it was 0.48. I think the saturation was like 1.2. And maybe the value was like 1. We'll see. Let's see if I got my brick texture back. Oh, I have to plug it into color. Wow, I'm just all kinds of hurting today. So I think, okay, there we go, something like that. So anyway, we have this brick texture and this brick texture, and now we want to kind of drive a gradient between the two. Specifically, that is mixing right here in the hearth. So I'm going to back the material output out a little bit, and I'm going to add in, with Shift A, I'm going to add in a mix shader node, and I'm just going to place that down right here. We're going to take the Ashen Principled BSDF right here, so I can actually rename this to Soot. There we go, and we will rename this to Brick. Okay, so now we're going to mix between the two. I'm going to plug the BSDF output into the bottom shader and the brick shader into the top shader. And now if I preview this, you can see it is mixing between the two. And if I slam the factor to 0, it's going to look like the actual brick. If I slam the shader all the way to 1, it's going to look like the actual soot. And now I need to create a map that drives between both, because essentially what's happening here is the factor of 1 is changing it to just the soot, and the factor of 0 is changing it just to the brick. And this is also associated with the colors black and white. So black is 0 and white is 1, and I can show you exactly what I mean if I, it's called a color node now. So if I take this and I plug this into the factor, if I set it to white, it's going to be 1, or the second shader. And if I slap it all the way down to black, it's going to be the top shader, or 0. So what we need to do is create a color map that uses white values and black values to differentiate between which shaders should go where. So we're going to delete this color node, and I'm going to hit Shift A and add in a gradient texture node. Okay, and I can just plunk this down here, and I can preview this, and now we can see we have a nice gradient all over the place. But this is really not what I want. So I'm going to change this from linear to spherical, just like that. And we're going to hit Control T so that it adds texture coordinate nodes and mapping nodes. And now, what is going on? There we go. And now I'm going to drag these up here, and I'm going to change this from generated, which is by default, to object driven. So object is going to plug into vector. And now we can see that due to the individual object, it is putting it in kind of a predictable spot. So now if I wanted to change where this actually is, I could hit Shift A. I'm going to add in an empty, and I'm going to add in an empty sphere so that way you can actually see it. And this, I want to be sure this is actually staying up even if I click on other objects. So I'm going to go ahead and click the pin right there. So now I can take this texture coordinate node and see we have an eyedropper here that gives us the option to select an object. So I'll select the eyedropper and I'll click the object right here. And now if I move the empty around, it's moving the actual gradient itself. So now we can pull this up. We can kind of put this exactly where we think the soot should go, which is probably somewhere about here. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. Maybe we can drop it back into here. Something like that is probably going to be good. Okay, so this is pretty good, but this is kind of a relatively weak map. The whites are not particularly white. The fringe here, it kind of gradients off a little bit too harshly. So we're going to add in a color ramp here, and we're going to click right between these two and put it right between the gradient texture output and the material output, which is what we're viewing right now. And we're going to bring these values in a little bit and make sure the whites are actually white like that. And we're going to make sure the fall off is not as crazy. So I can adjust the parameters and the size and the scale and where everything is. and I can also adjust how severe the gradient itself is. So something like this I think is appropriate. And now we have a nice black and white map. So now, exactly like what I said, the black value is going to be 0 and the white value is going to be 1. So now when I take this color ramp and I plug it back into the mix shader that we set up, what it's going to do is say that the black value, currently as you're seeing it, is going to be the 0 position, so it's going to be the brick shader. And the 1 value, which is the white value that we have set up here, is actually going to be the soot, or the black shader in the second position. So I can show you exactly what that looks like. We can preview this again. I'll set this to 0.5 so that you can see it mixed together. And we're going to take the color ramp here, and I'm going to take the color output and plug it into the factor. And that is exactly what happens here. And I can increase this up a little bit so that it just kind of looks a little bit more natural. Like I said, the gradient is not always a great telltale sign of how it's going to present. So something like this is actually really cool. Now, again, just to kind of show you why this matters, this is the way that it looks with our mix shader. It has character. It obviously looks like a fireplace that has been used before, but if you preview just the brick by itself, it looks a little bit, I mean, it's cool, it works, it's brick, but it doesn't really have character to it. So by adding just that little bit of detail, and again, if you're not demonstrating this, if you're actually going through this beat by beat, and demonstrating it, it's a little bit slower. But if you're not doing that, if you're just running through it on your own in your studio or at home, it's much faster to set this up, and it's very customizable. You don't even have to use an empty. I was just showing you how to do that. You could even change it using the location vector in the mapping node. So that's that. That is the brick texture. That's what we're going to do for that one. And now we're going to move into actually doing the shaders for the stocking. So the stocking, and I'm going to be really careful so that when I switch back, I don't go back to my hold screen. But what's different about the stocking itself, when we actually put a decal on it, because that's what we're going to do, we're going to use a decal. When we put a decal, if we just slap it on there, it's going to look a little bit off. And the reason is, ostensibly, when you have knit, and you have like, you're like knitting a sweater or a stocking in this case, the E that we're actually going to put on the stocking for Elijah, the E would be woven into the actual knit itself. It wouldn't be something that was just kind of stapled on like a piece of paper. So if we were to take a decal and just mix it just like what we did with the black and the white map, obviously that would not be great because it's not woven into the texture. So that's what we're going to take a minute to explore, is actually not just how to mix a decal into the mix, but how to integrate it into the pattern specifically of this knit. So, all right, we got the screen. We did not go back to the hold pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my stocking. The first thing we really need to do is to add in a knit pattern. Now I'm going to unpin this, and I'm going to go to Grayscale Gorilla, and I'm going to look up wool. Now they have a really great wool texture that I really enjoy. It's this one right here, the fabric tuft wool. You can really make it look like knit and textile. To me, in my opinion, it's one of my favorites. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to choose fabric wool tuft, and now this doesn't look great. Now because of the way that I'm actually doing this, I'm going to want to UV unwrap this. So for those of you who are intimidated or menaced by UV unwrapping, we're going to demystify that as well, I suppose. Now it is so simple. We're going to tab into edit mode, where we have our very low polygonal value stocking here. And I'm just gonna grab the middle loop here, right here, okay? I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna go down to mark seam. I'll hit A to select all these faces, and I can hit U, and we're going to unwrap angle based. And that is as hard as it needs to be. That is all that you need to do to unwrap a stocking. Very, very easy. Okay, so now that we have the stocking unwrapped, now we're going to figure out how to mix in the E. Now, I already have an image in my file here, but essentially what I've done is I've just, same kind of thing. I have an alpha map, I have a white and black map that has an E in it, and we're going to use a very similar method to drive not just two shaders, but we're actually going to use it to drive the difference between two different colors. So we're going to change the color of the stocking, because if you have a cream colored stocking, yuck, don't do that. If it's just a cream colored stocking, go to Hobby Lobby, everything's 50% off, get yourself a better looking stocking. That's boring, okay? Don't do that. So instead what we're gonna do, we're gonna add in a color ramp to change this horrible looking stocking, and we're going to choose a couple values. Now this is what I was talking about previously, where you have a black value and a white value, and you can change the values and it will kind of change the makeup or the components of the stocking itself. So we're going to start with the black value. We're just going to choose kind of a maroonish, like a dark maroon, because this is the base of the kind of black values, the dark values. So you can see there at the very interior of the knit weave, you have kind of that maroon color. We're going to set this color from white to kind of a light pink, something like this. Maybe I might make it a tad darker. And we're going to add in one more value in between, because most of the values in the stocking, as you can see, as we were changing these things, they're kind of mid-tones. So we're going to change the mid-tones to a nice kind of pinkish red, something like that is probably going to be good. And there we have a nice looking stocking. If I unhide everything and I take a look at this, it's going to think about it. That is a really lovely looking stocking. Okay, so now we're going to take what we just made here, and we're going to turn it into a personalized stocking. We're going to take an E, and we're going to use the E, or the alpha map of the E, to drive between this red color, this nice maroon red color, and a green color. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing that we did. We're going to hit Command Shift and D and duplicate this down here. We can preview this color, and we're going to do the same thing that we did. We're just going to change it more to an E. You know what? No, we're not. I'm going to show you actually a more simple way. I apologize. I lied to you. We're going to do something a little bit more simple. Now, first thing we need to do is actually add in a mix color node, right? What is going on? I created a node group. Oopsie. We're going to add in a mix color node right here. And this works exactly the same way as a mix shader node, except it's mixing RGB values, not necessarily shader information. So we can plug in our first color here. And if we preview the mix color node, you can see it's trying to do the exact same thing. So the A value is going to be the black, and the B value is going to be the white, and the B value, if we set this to something like blue, it's trying to mix between the two, but if I slam it to 0, it's going to be the red. If I slam it to the 1, it's going to be the blue. So again, we're going to need to create a factor map that is going to go between the two of them. Now, until I do that, or before I do that, I suppose, I can add in another HSV node. I can just set it down right here. We're going to plug the color output into the color input here, and take the color output into the B input. There we go. And now I have an HSV controller that is basing all of its values on this color ramp. So now if I were to change the hue to something like a green right here, and I maybe drop the saturation because that's a little bit aggressive, something like that, still very merry, still in the holiday spirit, but perhaps not an assault on your retinas. So from here, we can actually create a map that's going to drive the factor between the A and the B value, okay? So let's go ahead and hit Shift A, and I'm going to add in an image texture. And I already have it loaded up right here, the E letter right there. You can see that. And if I preview this, you don't see anything in the color. You kind of can see it right there from the aliasing. But if I hit alpha, that is really where the magic happens. You can see the E is mapped right here. Now, this is because my UV map is a little bit wonky, and it's mapped out for the knit texture itself, but it's not necessarily mapped for the E. So what we need to do is to add another UV texture. So I can go down to my data properties panel here. I can go down to UV maps, and this is something that quite a few people might not actually know about objects in Blender. You can add multiple UV maps. So I'm going to click plus right there. Now we have another UV map, and I'm going to call this E map, just like that. And I'm going to drag out a window where I can actually have the UV editor so I can adjust this. So to be able to visualize this, this is kind of a chicken and the egg situation. So we're going to balance both the chicken and the egg. And to view this properly, we're going to go ahead and take the E up here. I'm going to hit Control T, and it's going to add a mapping and a texture coordinate node. And now, rather than using the texture coordinate node, I'm going to delete that. And I can hit Shift A and look up UV map right here. And now I can reference a UV map that is on my object. And obviously we have an E map down here, so I can click this and I can choose E map just like that, and I can plug that into the vector. And now it is using the UV map from my from this one that I specified, the E map itself. Now I believe, no, I'm in UV editor. Okay, cool. So now that we're in the UV editor, if I tab into edit mode and I grab the UVs here, we can see that we are right here in this particular, nope, what is this? Here we go. I had to scroll over. I have my screen punched in at 100%. I usually have it at 120. So it's a little bit further out, but for your viewing pleasure, it's punched in. So I'm a little bit lost in my own file here. Now I'll make sure the stocking is fully visible here. And as we can see, we are using the E map value. So we can change this to the original UV map. And this 2 are the same from the jump, but as we start to edit the UV map that is specified, the E map, it's going to only edit that, and the original UVs will stay the same. So at first I need to figure out which one of my UVs is the front, and it's this one right here. So I'm going to grab this UV, I'm going to hit Command L to select all of it, and I'm going to put it at the very center right there. I hit M, and then I put merge to center, and now we're going to grab, I can't remember which is the selection. I think it's, is it 4? Wow, is it 4 on the, okay, it's 4 to select the whole island. You don't usually have 4 in selection mode. So 4 on the keypad to, or on the keyboard to select the whole island. And now we can just scale this up. And we're going to go ahead and put the E right here on the stocking. Now you'll see it's repeating the E multiple times, and we'll take care of that momentarily. But something like this is going to be acceptable to me. Something like that. Okay. So to make sure we don't get the E on the bottom like that, we're going to go to the actual image right here, and we're going to change this from repeat to extend, just like that. And now it is just extending out the value here, which would be the black, and it is extending it to infinity. So we have our E. Okay, so now we have our alpha map. So what we know previously from building the bricks, the white is going to be the B value, and the black is going to be the white value. So if I were to take the alpha right here and plug it right into the factor and view it, there we have a lovely looking stocking. And now I can take this output right here, the result, plug it into the base color, view the actual principal BSDF, and we have a lovely looking stocking. Now that is tough to see in this scenario, so we're gonna unhide everything and take a look at it again. And that's looking really nice. I think I can make it a little bit punchier. I can turn the value up a bit, and I think that looks good. Okay, cool. So now we have everything mixed together. It's looking good. But like I said at the very beginning of this particular segment, there are these really hard lines. And I'm no knitter. I don't like the word knitter. I'm no person who knits, but I know enough to know that it should not look like that. So what we're going to do is actually take this E with the hard edges, and we're going to integrate it into the knit texture itself. And we can do this really simply, kind of on the back end of our UV mapping here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this out to here. And I'm going to find myself a nice black and white map that is in my stocking. So that's funny, it's in my stocking. So I can go through and view these again with Control and Shift and clicking. And the roughness map seems like it might be my guy. But I can go through here and just kind of check. Yeah, I think the roughness is going to be what I want. So I'm going to hit Shift Command D and duplicate this up here. I'm going to view this, and then I'm going to grab a map range node, and I'm going to put it in between the two, just like this. And I can use the map range node to essentially crunch the white and the black values. So I'm going to make sure the black values are a little bit more present here, like this, and the white values are going to be a little bit stronger as well. And I'm just going to kind of crunch out this map until I get something that approximates this. And from here, I'm going to use this map range to actually drive between the UV map and distort it. So we can add in, with Shift A, we're going to add in a mix color node, another one. We can just plunk it down right here. And to really view this well, we're going to go ahead and view the mix color node. As you can see, once I added in the mix color node on the back end, it did not like that. If I put it back, it's correct, but once I put it here, it doesn't like that because it's trying to mix it with that B value there, and it's not working correctly. So I'm going to change this blending mode from mix to linear light, just like that. And now I can change this, and it's no problem. But if I take the map range node and I plug it into the B value, we can see that obviously makes a big problem. So now if I were to take the factor and pull it all the way back to almost 0, it actually starts to integrate into the knit texture. I cannot speak. So if we were to view the alpha here, you can see that's exactly what's happening. It's actually starting to look like it was knitted into the fibers itself. So then, again, viewing the principal BSDF, what is happening? Okay, why did it do that? I'm very concerned. I'm very worried to go back to this because I don't know why it's doing that now. I obviously edited something and made a mess, but from here it's great. What did I do that made such a mess? I didn't change. you guys are seeing this live. I don't know. Let me double check everything. Metallic is that, roughness is fine. Normal is fine. Scattering weight, that's fine. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I did. I stepped in it here live. I don't know what I did. Why is that like that? Oh, it was because I was in... okay, it just didn't update. Okay, guys, it's not my fault. I know what I'm talking about. I actually know Blender. Okay, so everybody settle down. All the ops that they got me right there, all the people that were preying on my downfall really thought they got me, and really the viewport just had to update. So once again, nice try ops, but I'm still on top. I'm still number one. So there we go. Now you can see it's nicely integrated into the knit texture itself. It looks really good. And again, that is one of those things that it is the small difference between me looking at your art or somebody's art and being like, okay, cool, they just mixed a decal, and then somebody seeing the knit texture and how the E is integrated into it and thinking, huh, that's really cool. I wonder how they did that. And that's kind of a fun part of 3D, is trying to make things a little bit sneaky and smoke and mirrors and try to trick people on how you did something. So certainly I think this accomplishes that. Once again, we can view this in situation, and it looks really nice. It looks much better than whatever was going on before. So again, we can I think we can preview that if it's not going to break. Yeah, this is what it looked like before. This is what it looks like after. Tiny, minor detail, but it really does look nice how integrated it is there. So now I am going to check the poll here. There are 15 votes. That's great. And it looks like, what is... I can't even see the results of the poll. Oh, wow. Contentious poll. People wanted to see the garland, though, the most. And if you voted for the cookie, that is just... I'm sorry to say, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to do the garland, which actually, I'm glad you said that, because the garland, in my opinion, is a little bit cooler. So we're going to use 2 of the new kind of MoGraphy, the geometry node modifiers to actually make some nice festive garland. So I'm going to hide this. This kind of looks like a butt. It looks like a butt, but it's not. This is a curve right here, a curve object. You can make it very easily yourself with the pen tool or the annotate tool or the draw tool, whatever it is. What is it? Yeah, the draw tool. And you can just make yourself a nice little bow of garland here, a string of garland. And essentially what we're going to do is use the curve to tubes to create some geometry on it. And then we're going to scatter some pine needles onto the tubes themselves, and then I'm going to show you how to take it a step further. So the first thing is first, we need to go into the modifiers here, and we're going to add in curve to tube right there, okay? And that's going to be way too big for what we need. We just need a little bit of geometry. We don't need anything crazy. I think that's going to be about good. And now we need to create ourselves a pine needle. So I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'll just grab a cube. This is what I like, and I know you can do this with a round cube. I'm just being annoying about this. I'm going to add subdivision surface. We're going to apply that. And now we have a nice little, what's it called? A round cube. And in the x-axis, we're just going to kind of scale this out a little bit. We can drag this. And it's just a nice looking, whatever it's called, pine needle, something like this. We can add in, I'm going to use Sweet Buttons Pro. We can put it on subdivision. We'll build that stack, and that is looking nice. Now, it might be nicer to just have it a little bit thinner, something like this. We're going for stylization, not necessarily realism. So there we go. I think that's a nice looking fake stylized pine needle. Now, if you wanted to do something more realistic, obviously knock yourself out and do your own stream if that's what you want. So there we go. Okay, we have ourselves a pine needle. So now back on our curve object here, we're going to add scatter on surface just like this. And we can choose our object. So I'm going to choose this as my object right here. And immediately, nothing happens. So we need to increase the density quite a bit until things start to pop up. And I think that's going to be probably good. We can increase this to like 150 just to see what happens. That's definitely not even going to be remotely enough. So we'll increase this now to like 500, okay? Again, not going to be enough. But that is enough to at least get my point across here, which is we're going to get into this and change some of these parameters. So we can toggle down transform right here. And we can change the scale. That's going to be first because this is way too big. It looks like long pieces of rice. We want this to feel chaotic. So something like this is going to be about appropriate. And then we can tick on randomize. And this is where we're actually going to be able to change a lot of things. So we're going to change the rotation value to, to 180 in all 3 axes so that you get these nice random rotations. And now we're going to change the scale randomness just a teeny tiny bit, nothing crazy, maybe like 0.2. Now we can go back up here and we can make this like 1500. Oh my goodness, okay, maybe even more. We'll do like 5,000. I think 5,000 is about right. And so now we have a nice looking little garland here. If I were to go into material preview, I can grab this. I can add a new material. We'll just call this pine. And we can change the color to something piney. I don't know. I kind of like the blue greens, something like that. And we'll maybe decrease the roughness just a little bit. Maybe we can even change the subsurface to kind of give it that classic pine needle look, kind of the leafy look. And there we have something that strongly resembles garland. Okay, so that is the first part of it. Very easy setup, pretty simple to do. But now I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, we'll hit Command D, and I'm going to keep the curve to tube, and I'm going to actually go ahead and delete scatter on surface because I want to kind of start new with this. So now what we're going to do, we're going to increase the scale of this tube up to something like maybe here. Okay. Now we can add another modifier, and it's going to be, what was that called? Scatter on surface. I could not remember what it was called. And we need to add in our little light bulbs now. So I'm going to add in a mesh UV sphere. It does not need to be that big. What we can actually do is maybe do an icosphere like this. Okay, when we can make this teeny tiny. I think that's going to be good. I'll apply the scale. And now with our tube selected here again, we can choose our sphere, our icosphere right there. And this is kind of the tilt point where we get something a little bit more interesting. I'm going to increase the density to 500 so we can visualize it. But we're going to change this parameter keep surface. We're going to take this off. And now we have these like little lights that are kind of spread across here. So I think that was too much. We can increase the Poisson disk amount. And something like this is probably going to be about right. We can change the transform. I might turn the scale down so they're more like little fairy lights, something like that. And now if I were to, let me hide the needle, I'll take this, I will add a new material, I'll change it out for an emission, we can view that. I might make it a little bit yellow and crank the strength up quite a bit. And now if I unhide everything, we can see we have some lovely stylized Christmas garland here. And it looks really nice. It fits right into the mood. And again, if you wanted to make it more realistic, you could probably even use an image plane with a pine needle or pine needles and like those kind of pine fronds almost, and do it that way. But this is the subsurface scattering was a mistake, by the way. Let me tell you guys something. That was a mistake. So we're going to turn the random walk all the way down. Did that fix it? That fixed it a little bit. Whatever. But, you know, there you go. Not bad for a quick little bonus lesson. So very excited about this kind of garland this garland bit here and just the shader editors in general. I love the shader editor so much. I know that some people struggle with it, some people don't care for it, but it is really one of my favorite things about Blender, and I find it to be really fun and interesting and easy to use. So that'll about do it for our demonstration. I did want to get into a little bit about the Q&A. I had a lot of people, I think close to 30 responses, and I'm going to respond to about, I don't even think it's 10% of it. I'm going to respond to 3 questions. They were questions that I think are things that I get asked about a lot. They're things that I find pretty interesting, or that I think other people would find interesting, or maybe even helpful. So I'm going to get into those, and if you have any other questions, of course, you can leave them in the comments section here. So okay, so we're going to get into this. The first question was asked, what is the most challenging part of dealing with clients? Now, that is a really tough question. And it's especially tough because I am still kind of freelancing. So, then being like, this is what I hate about clients, and completely crashing out about how bad clients are is probably not the best look. But I am going to give you some insight into something that was just very jarring to me, because I've been freelancing for about a month now, maybe a little bit more, a year and 2 months now. And something that I found jarring immediately was reconciling and having to change and fit in with cultures, especially when you're dealing with either a point of contact or, a manager or a creative director who has a very different or frustrating personality or a leadership style. Your job as a freelancer, of course, is to be professional and to be very very involved with the project, but perhaps, not too familiar with the team. But at the same time, there is some value to being integrated and showing a part of your personality and getting to know them. And oftentimes, there are people. If you've been on the planet a long time, you might have run into some people you don't care for. And if you've freelanced for any amount of time, you've probably run into people you don't care for in a professional environment. In fact, I might be somebody that you would hate to work with. That is possible. I don't vibe with everyone, but that is something that was really jarring. One of the first projects out of the gate, it was an awesome project, but the project lead, they responded with really short, curt, clipped emails. It almost seemed offensive. I would do something and they would say, "No, this is completely wrong," and I would be like, "Oh my goodness, okay, like I'll just log off for the day." And then I would get on a call with them and they would be like, "No, I think you completely misunderstood what I meant. I meant this. You should do this." And they were totally polite and totally cool. So sometimes just differences in personalities and different leadership styles are really jarring. I'll also say that learning to say no in a professional capacity is a really important part of dealing with negative clients or problematic clients. I found that people who have $5,000 at stake, $500 at stake, whatever it is, a very low number, they seem to be very, very hands-on, and they want to make sure everything is meticulously perfect, and they don't really understand your craft more than likely. And then it's like the people that have they drop a 20 grand project, a 50 grand project, 100 grand project. They're like, yeah, just do whatever you want. Just make it look good. And that is awesome. But oftentimes, especially if you're first starting out or you're working with smaller clients, you'll get a lot of questions or a lot of requests that are outside of the agreed upon scope. I've had people ask me to add entirely new characters to a cast on an ad that is essentially done. I've had people ask me to do things on the weekend. I've had people say, "Hey, I know it's just a teeny tiny amount of money and you're working on this as a favor, but would you mind to basically redo the entire thing?" Very frustrating things. And as a freelancer, you don't want to say no, especially if you have a relationship or you're feeling like, I don't want to blow this relationship with these people. You don't want to say no. And just as a general rule of thumb, especially in business, you don't want to say no. So instead, you have to play an incentivization game. You have to essentially use money and time to tell them no. For example, if somebody came up to you via email or, if you're working in studio or whatever, and they said, "Hey, we'd like to add another character. I know you just rendered out the final frame on this. I know your contract is up tomorrow, but we would like another character and we would like it to be integrated into all the scenes." Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. By tomorrow, that's just not going to happen. So you have essentially two bargaining chips. You can say, you are either going to have to give me another week to do this, and that usually comes with pay, but another week to do this and you pay me for another week, or you make it even more abrasive and you say, "I can absolutely do that. It's going to cost you an extra 10 grand or an extra 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever the scope is." And usually that will be enough to, especially if you kind of handshake that with that will cost you an extra 20 grand, but I really don't think we need it. That will reassure them that this is not necessarily something we need. This is something that they want. And the $20,000 price tag or whatever it is, the price tag or the budget shift or the timeline push will be very unattractive. And more times than not, they'll kind of let go of the rope. So that is, in my opinion and in my experience, that is a really helpful way to deal with difficult clients or negative clients. To just kind of say no by using incentivizations of timeline and money. But I do want to kind of promo this a little bit. Next week, 2 weeks from now, on the 16th, we will have Barrett Lewis, a very talented creative director, illustrator, composer, and what I call the client whisperer. He will be doing a live interview, a live private interview, and talking about basically managing clients and building a relationship with them that exceeds and continues to bring in work because they know you, they like you, they trust you implicitly. He is beyond talented at speaking with clients, and we'll be sitting down live with him and he'll be kind of talking through the magic that goes into that. So if you're interested in that, certainly consider joining the Fort. It's going to be a really interesting and really awesome conversation. The second question, wow, that was okay. That was question one. This is why I'm only doing 3 and not 30. The second question that I got is, how do I find clients and how do I promote myself? Now, I just want to say from the offset, I am not necessarily the like poster child for finding clients. I have been incredibly lucky. I'm in a really great position where I have enough high-paying clients that I can live stream. I can make products. I can make videos, and I have a wife that has all of the medical insurance covered and everything from her job. So I'm in a pretty good position where I don't really have to run out and bang on doors all the time. But with that said, I've also pretty much stayed consistently busy, and have had to turn down quite a few projects this year. And I think there are a couple reasons for that. But I will say this from the jump. Systems do work. Like having the kind of the freelance grind and having systems. I know Motion Hatch, I think that's what it's called. Motion Hatch has some like really great resources on that. There's like I think it's called like 6K Creative or something like that. 6-figure creative. 6K Creative would not be, that'd be almost no money. Make $6,000 a year. Please buy my course. No. Six-figure creative, I think, has something like that. But systems do work. They are important. They are awesome. But every cool project I've ever done. I mean, the first project I did right off the rip was on the Vegas Sphere. I've worked with a Samsung project. I've worked on just all kinds of like really neat, even some like small things that are kind of niche. I've worked on a lot of cool projects because I have friends. And they're it's completely sheer luck. But I have friends, I know people know who I am, I'm kind of out there, and it is complete happenstance of, oh, by the way, I have this project and I thought you'd be perfect for it. And that really only happens out of the blue, which to some degree, we were talking about this in the fort, I think last week, but to some degree that's almost comforting, and to some other degree it's a bit disheartening to know that, I could wake up tomorrow and I could have 3, things in my inbox where they're begging me to come work on their project, or I could wake up tomorrow and I'm still broke. So it's hit or miss. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. But you can't account for sheer luck, even with systems in place. But like I said, make friends. Make 1 billion friends. The more friends you have, the more people you have in your circle of colleagues and people that you like and that like you. I think that is great. If you don't have any social skills, work on that. If you have no networking skills, work on that. I would say the number one tip that I was ever given that has netted me quite a few friends: just just assume everyone likes you. Assume everyone likes you. Assume you're everyone's friend. When you meet somebody for the first time, just assume that they're your buddy. And more than likely, it's going to confuse people and you start to accidentally make friends. That's what happened to me. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and it's because it tripped. I think they just looked up one day and we're pals. So, be aggressive with your friend making and make a whole bunch of friends. And I think the last point on this one is just be interesting. There are 1 billion, 100,000 billion. I think that's a number, 100,000 billion. 100,000 billion show reels out there, and each one is better than the next. Mine is probably in the lower quadrant of humanity's show reels. But I'm interesting. I've got a mustache. I've got a personality. I have an artistic perspective. And I can sit and I can yap. Obviously, I'm doing it once a week. Once a week on camera. I'm doing it for free, every other day of the week. But I can sit down and have a conversation and connect with people. And that is, I think, an invaluable part of building a network, is just learning to love people and to be integrated in with kind of the motion design culture. I will say one more thing on this. I don't want to drag this out too far. If you are a Blender user and you've only ever been a Blender user and you find yourself in alignment with the Blender community, and when you introduce yourself, you say you're a Blender user, or you're a Blender artist, or in your byline it says you're a Blender artist, unless you're doing something like I am, where I'm literally marketing to people who are in Blender, call yourself a motion designer. Make your software completely ancillary. If you align yourself with the MoGraph community, I promise you will get way more work than if you align yourself with the Blender community. Now, that might be changing. The tides might be shifting a little bit. But as for now, I have gotten like 95% of my work that I've gotten is from being a motion designer, not a Blender user. So that's something I think to take note of. And the third question, and I'll wrap this up. This is a pretty easy one. They said, would you recommend obtaining a master's degree? Yes. and also no. It really depends. I've talked about this in a couple of interviews. I grew up in a very small town in Arkansas. Didn't know anything about animation. Went to a very small college in a very small town in Arkansas. There was one guy there. Shout out to Mitchell Brooks. There was one guy there that knew something about animation and taught me it or told me about it. And then he graduated and just kind of left me there on my own. And I didn't know where to go. And so my family encouraged me, go get your graduate degree. And that was really helpful to me. I networked. I met a lot of great people. I learned a lot of things. I learned words I didn't even know existed. And so kind of gave me this tool belt of things that I needed to know that I didn't really even have like tertiary knowledge of. So I would say if you're in a similar position, of course, that happens. Obviously, if you're watching the stream, more than likely you know nothing about Blender or nothing about animation, unless you're one of my pals who's watching this, who's just not even peripherally. I have a nurse anesthetist that was watching earlier, so you never know who's watching this. But this message specifically is for the people who are watching this and are 3D animators. If you know people, if you're kind of adjacent to the industry, even if you're like graphic design or something, adjacent to the industry, or you're at least somewhat connected with somebody and you can ask questions, don't do it. Don't go to grad school. If you want to level up, join the fort. Join members only. We're in there. We'll help you level up. Check out School of Motion. Check out only School of Motion and only the Blender for 3D Artists course. But check out some of these kind of alternative educational systems before you invest a tremendous amount of time and money into a master's degree. Now, I would say the exception for that is if you plan on like teaching at a collegiate level, obviously you're going to need a master's degree, or if you plan on, or if you're more in my shoes that I was, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know anything, if you barely understand what I'm talking about in the stream, or you really feel like you're so far behind and you don't even know the right words to Google, yes, go to grad school, find something that was that's maybe a little bit more affordable, or something that if you can get scholarships or in-state tuition, something like that. But I think at that point, if you don't really know even where to start learning, you kind of need some amount of guidance. You need some amount of network, and you need people around you to tell you that's not how you do that. That's wrong. Do it the other way. And unfortunately, I think because college is so expensive and there are so many kind of useless majors and kind of useless degrees where you get out of college and there's not really a guaranteed job for you, I think there's this disillusion that college is completely useless, and it's really not. And I've seen kind of the runoff of some of this. I've worked with a lot of freelancers. I've worked with a lot of people that it's very obvious that they're not classically trained. They don't have that professional standard of they know how to like run in a studio setting. They know how to interface with clients. They know how to package things so you can hand it back and forth. They don't know how to take criticism very well. It's stuff like that you glean from either working in the studio around people that are better than you, or being in a schooling environment where you have mentorship, or these studio simulations or studio classes where you get that feedback and you get that kind of guardrail. So I think in that case, if you really need that, then it would be appropriate. Otherwise, I think there are better alternatives. And the number one alternative of all of it is the fort, is members only. So check that out. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. I think we're going to wrap that up there. That is that's all I've got for today, for this evening. We've been going for about we've been going for an hour. This is about standard, I think. I really appreciate you all being here. I'm really enjoying the stream. Like I said, if you wouldn't mind, share this with people. Share it on LinkedIn, share it on Instagram, share it on Twitter, whatever you want to do. I'm trying to get the word out there. I'd like to grow this. I'd like to put a little bit more effort and focus into the show off model. I think I don't think the way of the tutorial is dying necessarily, but I think it's certainly so oversaturated that it's really hard to provide something new or interesting or unique. So I really like the idea of creating more of a live stream space where I can still kind of do a live tutorial for you, where I completely mess up and blow things up and we don't know what happens and then we fix them together. But I also like the ability to interface with you and kind of let you know what's going on in the news, answer some questions you might have, give you an opportunity to have a voice in the industry and not just be offloading tutorials that I've already packaged for you, if that makes sense. So share it if you wouldn't mind. we're going to try to ramp this up, and I'm going to start doing clips. I'm going to clip things out and send those out on the internet, and hopefully we get some more traction, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a little bit more traction on off model. Join me next week again at Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time Zone. I don't know what the S is. Central Standard Time. That's probably what it is. CST. Join me on Wednesday at 7 p.m. We're going to be going over dynamic painting in Blender. Something that's a little bit, it's a little interesting. If you're not familiar with it, it's how people do like footprints in like the snow or in the sand, or they do like if a ball rolls through the snow, it kind of pushes the snow out of the way. I have snow on the brain, but we're going to take skiers and we're going to make them, kind of cut the snow as they go down the hill, and we're going to make a dynamic snow system that cuts with it. So we're going to go over that next week. I think that'll be interesting. You'll definitely, if you don't know what that is, you're definitely going to want to tune in. That's going to be a great watch. That's pretty much all I've got. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram. That's sweetboy.motion. Please be sure to follow me. I'm not even going to promote it. Don't follow me on Twitter. Don't follow me on X. I've gotten one follower in the last, I don't even know how many months, 3 months. I'm just shouting into a hallway. I'm done with Twitter. I tried it, or X, whatever it is. I don't like that it's something that it's not called anymore. That really makes me mad. And then I also just don't like shouting into a hallway the most insulting thing is it tells you how many people viewed it. That is so insulting to me. I don't know why. It makes me so mad. It says 18 people viewed this, 0 likes or hearts or whatever it is, 0 retweets. My blood boils. It makes me so mad. It's humiliating. It's absolutely humiliating. So don't follow me on Twitter. I'm not going to be on there anymore. I'm going to deactivate it. I'm still going to keep it because I like seeing what other people are doing. But I'm not going to be tweeting anymore or Xing, whatever it's called. I'm done with that. But do check out Instagram. We're at 15.2 thousand followers. That's insane. If you're not following me on there, don't miss out on my super awesome, great content. Go follow me on Instagram. Please like this show or this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Comment something down below. Let me know if you're liking the show. Let me know if you want to hear a different topic or if you have a burning question. And of course, we will get to those. And that's pretty much it. Check out members only if you're so inclined. And again, Payload 15% off with code OFFMODEL. And if you happen to have an influence or a following and you think that you'd be a good fit to be an affiliate, please reach out to me directly and we'll get that set up. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great evening. I appreciate you.